Traditional indigo cloth has a long history in West Africa, with some examples dating back to the 11th century. Though this practice of traditional indigo dyeing declined in present day, one can still find it in practice in a few rural communities in West Africa. For instance, in northern Nigeria, one can find one over 500-year-old communal dye indigo center called the Kofa Mata Dye Pits. Also in northern Ghana, there exists a centuries-old center of indigo dyeing in Daboya. I decided to make a journey to this community in northern Ghana to experience this old indigo tradition before it probably becomes lost in time, like many other beautiful traditions of Africa. Northern Ghana has a very strong mix of Islamic and traditional influences dating centuries. You would notice spectacular traditionally built architectural legacies such as the Larabanga Mosque and the Nagbiwa Palace, similar to the Sudano-Sahelian architecture. On my trip to Daboya, I arrived at a neighboring town by midday and was given the choice to go to Daboya by bus or canoe. Of course, I chose the canoe since it was shorter crossing the White Volta River, and it would be my first canoe ride as well. Traditional dye pits here in Daboya were owned by families, but are now generally owned by the community due to intermarriages. In the past, due to this strong Islamic and traditional influence, the craft of pit dyeing and weaving were strictly profession of men, since both sexes were segregated for work and worship. What women mostly did was to pluck the cotton from cotton trees and spin the cotton fibers into threads on spindles. These threads were later hand-woven into cloth by the men. Aside from the work, women here also designed cloth with simple tools and then dyed them in pots in their homes, which is known as the pot dyeing, since the pit dyeing was reserved for men. Northern Ghana as a whole has a proud tradition of weaving a particular indigo cloth called fugu. The people here can boast of generations of weavers who transfer the craft to the next generation. There were Moses from Burkina Faso who settled in these parts, and they came with their art of weaving, and the word fugu is a Moshi language which means cloth. Indigo plants are native to this area and have been cultivated for centuries just as cotton. To begin the process of indigo dyeing, a mixture of special ash known as zata and indigo plants is needed for the indigo dye solution. This can take days to be ready. When the solution is ready, the dyer then proceeds with dyeing the fabric. Whilst in the solution, he lifts it for oxygen, which helps bring out the desired shade of color. It is such a beauty to witness this process. It was a day to my departure, and so we went to the market square and had a group meal from the same bowl. The custodian of tradition told me eating from the same bowl is a symbolic gesture in their culture, and it also signifies trust. Honestly speaking, I came to northern Ghana to observe a dyeing craft, but I am surprised to find the craft very much alive. When I spoke to an old native who still does traditional indigo dyeing, I asked him if he thinks modern synthetic dyes and colored threads might finally replace their traditional indigo dyes. His response was no, because to him, indigo dyeing is an integral part of their culture and has always been their main identity. He went on further to say his father did the craft and his forefathers before him. Now he too does the same craft and has taught his children and grandchildren. He believes their children after them would also inherit this craft and it would continue. Many people in the rural community of Daboya have other occupations but still dye and weave indigo cloths alongside. To these people, it is more than just a means to an end. It is a way of life, part of who they are, a sacred tradition they intend to keep alive.